Hey everybody, this is Lauren Marie Taylor. You know me as Vicky from Friday the 13th Part 2, and as Stacy on the soap opera Loving, as Elaine with the candy underwear, as opposed to the brown underwear, but the candy underwear in Neighbors, and Sheila, ooh, I want to feel ya, from Girls Night Out. And you are listening to the most amazing podcast called Don't Go Out There. So listen up, don't go out there, stay out of the woods.
In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, it's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin, and they are all that stand between you and the films that could end the world. Welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie
Welcome back,
Podcast.
everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast. Just want to thank all of our fans and listeners. We really appreciate all support. You guys are awesome. Before we get into tonight's film review, I just want to give a quick shout out to our website, don'tgoouthere.com. My man Brian has done a fantastic job with the website. He's got it looking great. Everything about our podcast is on there. All of our episodes and interviews from episode 1 to our weekly release. If you want to check out all of our episodes there, maybe you have an office job, don't have access to your phone, you can listen on your desktop computer. We've done some incredible interviews in the past with some of the biggest names in horror, some of your favorite slashers, writers, directors. Check out our interviews if you haven't heard those yet. We got our store. We got some new T-shirts. Brian and Dustin have done some fantastic designs if you want to check those out. And we also have Shan's Etsy page attached as well if you want to grab a tumbler. And we also have our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. We love interacting with our fans. We love, meeting new people. We love answering your comments and questions on the air. So definitely check us out on social media. And the last thing I want to shout out is our Patreon. We call it Blood Donors. We have the traditional monthly reoccurring kind. You're a big fan of our podcast, a big fan of our show. You want to help support us. That option is available. And we also have one-time donations. If you want to donate and, if you have a film review you want us to do, that option is available as well. Happy Friday the 13th. Don't go out there, fans. We really appreciate y'all tuning in. Really excited to review this movie. This one you might throw in the overdue category, considering this is one of the franchises amongst many on this show where we do the original, then we do the remake, then we do sequel number 6. We're going to go in kind of an order now. Last year we did Friday the 13th, the original. This year we're going to do Friday the 13th, part 2. It's about damn time. I'll do my general thoughts and I'll let Brian go. This movie is all right. I thought it was pretty damn good. It's got, it feels like an 80s slasher. It's got the camp. It's got the cheese. It nails that perfectly. My biggest qualms, Jason stinks, but, it gets better throughout the series. Not a big fan of Sackhead Jason. I haven't waffled on that opinion through the almost 300 episodes we've done. I'll stand firm on that Sackhead Jason is mid, but I do enjoy this movie. I do enjoy it more than whenever we ranked it or did our 31 rankings many moons ago. I enjoyed this movie, this watch. I had a good time with it. Brian, you want to go ahead and go?
Yeah, so just a little history lesson right off the bat. After the success of Halloween, in Friday the 13th Part 1, there was kind of a mad dash to really capitalize on the whole sequel craze. Halloween 2 came out the same year as this, but Friday kind of just barely beat them to the punch with this. Not even, by the way, a year after the first one came out. But let's be honest. I mean, it's basically just the first one again with a new killer. And now, if we're still being honest, that's pretty much what the next 3 Friday the 13th movies are. But anyway, which is fine. It's not a knock unless you're having a movie marathon anyway. It's kind of what we want from a Friday the 13th movie, right? I mean, camp counselors, kills, Jason, boom. The only thing missing is the mask, and it's really my only knock on this one. I enjoy it. I think the characters are better than the first one. And it really just overall, it just improves on what came before, in my opinion. Except the kills, the gruesomeness of the kills. I think Savini's original kills are awesome. Plus, the MPAA was starting to be dipshits around this time. Hell, according to IMDb, there's actually nearly a minute of gore cut, 48 seconds to be exact. So, yeah, the kills do suffer some, with the exception of Mark. I fucking love that kill. But yeah, Amy Steele's Jenny is awesome. Come on the show, Amy. For God's sakes. I've tried 45,000 times to get you on the show. For God's sakes, come on the show. And shout out to a friend of the show, Lauren Marie Taylor, who played Vicky. Listen to her interview at don'tgoouthere.com. Trying a new one. Yeah. Anyway, I'm a fan of this movie.
Yeah. So again, when we did our original ranking, I believe I had this kind of low, or maybe even somewhere in the middle of the pack. Haven't looked back on that in a while, but I will say since then, I believe there was a Friday the 13th during COVID, and I sat and I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch all these motherfuckers. We ain't got nothing else to do. So I sat and watched them all in order, and I got to tell you, 2 went way up my ranking on that because I do think it's fun. Like, it's just a really fun 80s slasher. And I actually like this, Jason. I know that's a hot take, and I'll stand on it. I know I flip-flop a lot, but that is one thing, like Nico said, I will not flip-flop on here. I like Sackhead Jason. I think it's fun. One, it's kind of just fun, and it's different. The same way I feel about Michael Myers and the cloth mask and Halloween 4. Like, I don't hate the cloth mask. I think it's different, and it works, depending on how it's used. And I actually like this Sackhead Jason. Now, again, do I like it actually more than the mask? No. But I do think it's pretty comparable, in my opinion, for enjoyability. I enjoy the movie. I think it's fun. Has a lot of just good, hey, easy with that gavel, buddy. Has a lot of good 80s cheese that I want from a slasher. I think all the kills, while tamed by the MPAA, are pretty decent, minus one that I'll get to. I think the characters are better than the first one. I think the killer is better than the first one, even though I don't mind Penn Voorhees. Well, we've already talked a lot about that. But, yeah, man, for all the reasons you said, Brian, like, I really enjoy it. And on top of that, I'm a fan of Sackhead Jason. Before you get that gavel out, buddy, I had to word myself correctly. Hashtag
Sounds
Team
good,
Sack.
man. Knew it. It's funny you brought up your flip-flopping, Mike. I actually changed your name in my phone to Chancla. But anyway, this one, I went the opposite direction of you in this one, Mike. I didn't like it as much this time when I watched it. And I'll get into it when we, obviously when we do the scene by scene. But my issue with the movie, yes, much better to introduce a character of Jason than have his mother be the killer. Now, if Friday the 13th was a standalone and we never got introduced to Jason, then I've said this before, I think you all would appreciate that movie more.
Absolutely.
But the problem is we know Friday the 13th, we automatically think Jason. And so it's disappointing to watch it in retrospect that there is no Jason. It's his mom. Anyway, the killer being introduced as Jason in this one, great. The kills themselves, fucking awesome for the most part. But this movie, for the runtime being what it is, drags ass in the first half. And there's just a lot of nothing going on. And I'll talk about one area in particular that bothers me once we get into it. But the kills make up for it. Now, I'm not saying I dislike this movie. It's good. It's upper half of the Friday the 13th movies for sure. But watching it this time was for the first time in, I guess, a couple years. Whenever it was my second episode with you guys, I believe, when we did the Friday the 13th franchise rankings. That was way back when on episode 10. Hey, that rhymed unintentionally. But I joined you guys as a guest then. Honestly, I guess I rewatched it for the 31-31 that we did the first one. But
that wasn't your first episode?
That was your first.
Okay. I thought I joined
then
you
was on
for...
with CJ and then Jason Lives.
See, okay, I got the order mixed up. I thought Jason Lives was first, but you're right now, CTE. But I haven't watched this movie since I rewatched it for the inaugural 31-31. And watching it then, when I'm also watching all the shit that is the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, I like this movie a lot more. Yeah, I said that, Brian. Now watching it now when my palate has been cleansed of the Freddy Krueger bullshit, I see this movie more for what it is, and I didn't like it as much. But
hey, can I just say one thing too before we start? I think that it's bullshit that Victor Miller and Sean Cunningham both didn't want to continue this franchise with Jason. And so Ron Kurz and Steve Miner basically did all this by themselves. And yet Miller and Cunningham get the writing credits. And as you know by now, get to fight over the rights to something they didn't even fucking want to continue. I think that's bullshit. I want to put that on record.
Well,
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, fuck those two eternally. That's all I'm going to say.
I mean, from their perspective, though, I completely understand it. It doesn't make sense. Like, there's nothing supernatural about the first movie other than the end, and you can leave that up to interpretation. Like, was she hallucinating? Was the boy really there in the lake or whatever? And so when you write the movie the way the first one ended, and then you pivot to, oh, I'm just kidding, he's been alive this whole time, I can completely understand. Be like, no, fuck this. I wrote the original one. You're not going to bastardize this and now make him come back alive this whole time. So I understand their standpoint, but I also agree with you. Fuck that. Like, now we've got the franchises in purgatory.
Well, that's my problem.
We keep getting these, for the most part, shitty Halloween movies cranked out. And, 18 or Kills was good, but Ends, and then Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, I'll admit, shitty. And then a lot of the...
Not bad, Phil.
Nico liked it more than me, but...
Smart man, had Nico Chin.
It's just unfortunate to see this movie be held up over something that, they didn't even have a fucking thing to do with.
Yeah, it's funny you said that, Dustin. Every time I watch a Friday movie, I get more mad that we haven't gotten more Friday movies. Like, it always comes to the forefront of my mind. I'm like, damn it. Like, you could go back to the universe of the first one, which I really don't want, but you could pick up after this if you didn't like how, like, there's so many possibilities, and those two and others are holding it the fuck back. I know we're getting a TV series, and I'm glad, and it looks like we're getting a new movie, maybe finally, and I'm glad, but it's been so long, man. Like, I just, every time I watch these movies, I'll have that itch for a new one, because I've only seen one of these in a theater, and I'd like to experience that.
What's funny about it is, they can hold the rights all they want, because Never Hike Alone is better than majority of the sequels anyway.
Yeah, I like Never Hike in Snow, too. Both of them. I really like both of those. Absolutely.
Both were so good.
All right, let's jump into the scene by scene, guys. The film starts with a kid walking in the rain singing Itsy Bitsy Spider. We now see Jason's feet walking towards a house. We see Alice lying in bed having a nightmare, reliving her events from Camp Crystal Lake and her ordeal with Miss Voorhees. Alice wakes up from her nightmare and goes to the bathroom to wash her face. Her phone rings and chats with her mom. Her parents are worried about her. She goes into her kitchen, then turns her shower on. Her phone rings again and no one's on the other end. She grows suspicious and checks outside her door. She hears a noise from the kitchen and sees her window is open. She grabs an ice pick and a cat jump scares her through the window. She puts on some tea to boil and gets the cat some food, but she finds Miss Voorhees' head in the fridge. Jason stabs her in the head with the ice pick and takes the kettle off the burner. Title card and opening credits to a groovy Harry Manfredini score. Jeff and Sandra are in an awesome truck and stop at the Exxon. They use the payphone and the meanest tow truck driver hooks up to the truck immediately. Crazy Ralph tells them they're all doomed. They run after the tow truck and the driver ignores them. But it was all just a prank by Ted, and they head to the cabin. They stop and move a fallen tree from the road as we see someone staring at Sandra from the woods. She finds a Camp Crystal Lake sign, and the trio drives off. All right, Brian, that's the opening set of scenes. What'd you think?
I'm going to disagree a little bit with Dustin here. I love the first part of this movie. I really enjoy this cold open, mostly because it's different. Like, I mean, to be fair, it actually feels more like Halloween than it does Friday the 13th right here. I mean, it's like nothing you ever see again in this franchise that I can recall, in more ways than one, actually. I mean, one being Alice coming back from the first one. I mean, besides Tommy with 3 different actors, we don't get this kind of continuity from this franchise at all. I appreciated it here. That and the whole stalking into a neighborhood and Jason making a phone call thing. Like, again, felt like Halloween. Fun fact, according to Adrienne King, there was no script for this open with Alice. And the only thing they told her was that Jason was going to kill her and to improvise this entire thing, including the phone call. Like, okay. I love her kill as well, though. Cat jumps through a window, scares you, and bam, you get stabbed in the fucking head. Terrible day. I'm glad they went the route of having the young Jason be a hallucination. I mean, kind of solidifying that. We didn't know from the first one, but this kind of does solidify that. That does explain the issue of Jason aging so quickly in just a few years. It does not, however, answer the question of if he was alive the whole fucking time and just told his mother the first movie would never have happened. Okay. Which is, like we talked about in his interview at don'tgoouthere.com. But it's why Adam Marcus tried to go to the...
We got to work on that jingle.
Trying something new today. We'll vote. But it's why Adam Marcus tried to go the Deadite route, brought back from like the Necronomicon and his mother. But hey, in this movie, it's fine. The dream sequence replay of the first one is fine. It's whatever. But it's 10 months after this was released. Like, do something different. Don't just show recycled footage. Like, show all the scenes, but maybe from her point of view. I don't know. Probably not feasible with the budget, I would imagine. But I would have liked that better than the 10 minutes of rewatching the end of the first one, honestly. But I did want to say I really like this one shot, though, through the house following Alice. I already gave Steve Miner credit, so also credit the director of cinematography, Peter Stein. There's a lot in this movie shots-wise that you don't see again, like throughout the entire franchise. Also shout out Harry Manfredini's score and these classic credits. I love that shit. Last thing, just a question. How many miles per gallon do you think these fucking people get on that truck with those big ass wheels? You know what? It doesn't matter because gas was like 85 cents back then. So I don't know what I'm talking about.
85 cents was like $3.90, pal. I'm just kidding.
I don't know. Minimum wage was like $2.
Anyway, good to see Crazy Ralph too. Again, should have been a killer in the first one. I'll die on that hill, but go ahead.
Oh yeah. So Itsy Bitsy Spider. This is the creepiest rendition I've heard. I really like that. I got to give this movie credit. Pretty early dealing with what PTSD is right here, with the character of Alice kind of having these tossing and turning dreams, these nightmares. So way to go, Steve Miner, on that, man. I actually like that these movies, the first, 3 out of the first 4 start with the recap of the last one, and I like that. I feel like more movies could do that. TV shows do it all the time, so I'm not really sure why it would matter. But I kind of like the format, and I understand the complaint there, Brian, or not the complaint, but like the maybe showing it from a different perspective. That was probably a budget thing, I'm sure. But I do like that as a viewer, I may not have to watch the first one.
Last time on Friday the 13th.
Yeah, I like that continuity, that storytelling. I think that works. You mentioned Alice being back. I like that continuity. I like the tie that we get to the first one and having to watch it all again. Now she's, trying to make it after the events of the first one. Again, a little bit ahead of its time, in my opinion. It will always be hilarious to me. I know it's a hallucination to go from seeing this ugly ass kid Jason to now he's this whole ass bumbling adult. Like, there's just something that's forever funny about that. Like, I actually kind of wish it wasn't a hallucination and everyone just went, fuck it, he aged. What are you going to do? Like, I kind of think that's funny. And I think this opening scene is actually pretty suspenseful. Like that we have the same, or the final girl from the OG. And it makes sense that she would be freaking out at even the slightest bit of noise because of what she just went through. Ice pick to the temple was a fucking great kill. Love that kill. It's not my favorite kill, but it's a good one. This motherfucker using this payphone looks like he's geeked out, man. I would not stop and help this motherfucker if I saw him. I know that's rude. I don't care. Crazy Ralph, the legend. Love Crazy Ralph as a character. Felt like, spoiler alert here, gone a little too soon in this franchise, if you ask me. So that's a decent prank to fake tow someone's truck. But I'm throwing hands because there's nothing more annoying than having your shit towed. Okay, it's really what, especially when you're in a hurry. You go in, you come back out. I know we should follow laws. I understand. But last thing, I agree with Brian. I like these POV shots that we get in this movie. Very, very not to give them all the credit in the world. They weren't the first people to do it, but it is very Halloween 1978 with some of these point of view killer shots that we get. Again, not the first movie to ever do it, but it is what I think of personally. And we get that in the house, and we get that, when we get to a little bit of the camp. I like those POV Jason shots.
I do love the open. The setting is great. It's dark, wet. The kid getting called inside right before Jason steps in the puddle. That was a great shot. However, it does paint the question, how much time has passed? I get what you said, Brian. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. But, if we're to take it for what we saw on camera, the last time we saw Jason, he was a deformed, naked kid in the lake. And now he's a grown-ass man with some boots and pants on who does his shopping. His mama did. I do love the continuity with the story. in the characters. Seeing Alice in the open, in the flashbacks with her nightmare was solid. I don't understand why she was laying on top of her blankets, fully dressed. Who goes to bed like that? Maybe she was just tuckered out after a long day of work. I don't know. But it lasts too long for me. Because we've seen the original. We don't need the whole damn movie via flashbacks. But if you're going to have that in the movie, to me, at least use it to show the opening credits. Because those take long enough for a movie anyway. Finally, 7 minutes into the movie, we move past the recap of part 1. And Alice is a prime example of why I have a rule in my life that I follow strictly. Always say I love you to loved ones when you're talking on the phone, no matter how upset you are, no matter what's going on, because you never know if that'll be your last chance to tell them. I tell everyone I talk to I love you when I hang up the phone. The score is solid after she gets the ghost call and she's looking around the house. I think that's a great 80s horror score. Also, I love that they made this feel real by letting Alice's big-ass pimple get some camera time. No cover-up on that bad boy. That shit was a monster. Not sure why Jason put a severed head in the fridge here. That was kind of weird. But our first kill is pretty good. Ice pick to the dome. That's brutal. But how the hell did he find Alice's house? Like, he's out here on Google Maps. Like, what the fuck? How did he know where she lived? That bothers me. And then our damn opening credits takes up 1 minute and 43 seconds. Now, the reason I said the time is because for a movie that's an hour and 26 minutes long, that's crazy. Yeah. Like, this ain't a long movie. It's like they really didn't have enough meat on the bone for a full movie. Like I said, they should have had these credits happen simultaneously with the flashbacks. That would have worked better for me. Give us a title card, maybe when he steps in the puddle, and then go into our credits on the screen at the, and the shit going on in the background. Then we see our guy, Crazy Ralph. I love that old bastard. He's great. It's a pretty good prank to have your friends towed. I need to keep that one in my back pocket. That's solid. I do like when they stop because the tree's down in the middle of the road. She goes, "This place is spooky," as she wanders off alone into the woods. Dumbass. She deserves whatever comes her way. To me, it's not the best open. Like, it's definitely got some positives. I like the continuity. I like the opening shot of Jason in the street when it's dark. I like the opening kill. And then we meet who's going to be our new characters. We meet some of them here. But it just, the flashback sequence in the credits just threw me off because it took up such a long chunk of time for a short movie.
The bell rings at camp and we meet our new counselors. Scott shoots Terry with a slingshot with an extreme close-up of her booty cheeks. Paul chats to all the counselors as Jenny passes by Crazy Ralph on the road. Paul takes Jenny in the cabin and he scolds her for being late. She apologizes. Her car is a piece of shit. The two kiss and they join the others. Paul drops a child psychology line on Jenny and gets her car crunk up. They're around a campfire now and he tells them about Jason. He tells them about Alice disappearing 2 months after her ordeal at Camp Crystal Lake. They're the first to return 5 years since it happened. Jason's out there, hungry and watching for returners. Ted scares them all dressed up as a savage. Paul said it was all malarkey and they head to their cabins. POV shot watches them from outside. Mark is whooping ass arm wrestling while Scott dances with Terry's dog, Muffin. Jenny leaves to go to bed. Sandra tells Jeff she has to see that camp. Jenny changes into a robe as we see someone's shadow walk past her cabin. Paul scares her, then romances her. Crazy Ralph is against a tree looking on until barbed wire is wrapped around his neck and he's killed. All right, Brian, that's the next set of scenes I got. What'd you think?
Yeah, I wanted to also mention the characters again, like I did in my open. They're developed a lot more than in the first one. And again, I don't think it's boring. I like the character development. Credit to Ron Kurz again for that. But as far as developing characters goes, Jenny especially just seems different as a final girl. Like, everything around this time was either like a crappy copy of Laurie Strode or Jamie Lee Curtis a la Prom Night playing Laurie Strode again. So Jenny is just definitely unique. She's one of, if not the best, dare I say, final girl in this franchise, maybe. Lauren Marie Taylor's Vicky, though, has a special place in my heart because, remember, interview, don'tgooutthere.com. That was like my kind of a pornish type, wasn't it? Anyway.
Hey, man, what the fuck is happening?
Jenny and Paul, definitely a copy of Steve and Alice in part one. I mean, without that creepy age difference, though. And shout out Ted as well. He doesn't get on my nerves. Stuart Charno plays him well, I think. Second week in a row as well, we have someone in the movie that was from Mike's favorite movie, Christine. Ted's fucking great because, I mean, he's known in this franchise for, spoiler alert, surviving all the carnage simply because he went off and wanted to party and not come back. I mean, that's fucking fantastic. Like, I wish he would have come back later in the franchise. And I have to say, I laughed when it tried to trick you as an audience member and imply that the killer was the one shooting the slingshot at Terry's ass. That makes me laugh to think about. I mean, imagine this Jason calling folks on the phone and shooting slingshots at girls' asses. Oh, classic Jason Voorhees, you prankster, you. But if you're wondering if Paul tells the girls to keep clean during their menstrual cycle, you didn't hear that wrong at all. He did. That was definitely a choice there. I also wanted to mention this campfire scene. It's such a staple throughout the rest of this franchise because it's just so damn good. Like it's a good get caught up scene, given the story of Jason Voorhees, which, in this movie, did we really need? Because we saw the last 30 minutes of the last movie at the beginning, but here we are. It's still awesome. John Fury does such a good job of delivering the lines. Last thing, Crazy Ralph death. Hate to see it, but there it is. But when he was being a peeping Tom, I guess peeping Ralph, I'll say. But when Jenny says, I have something I need to tell you, Paul, and he says, no, what is that implying? Is that implying that she's a virgin? Is that the way you took that? I don't know. I have another question, too, that Dustin, I wanted to kind of bring up when you got done finished talking, but I missed you. You brought up a good point about this head being in the refrigerator, that last set of scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I thought forever, until you just said that was Pamela Voorhees' head in the fridge. Whose fucking head is that? Like, is it supposed to be Pamela Voorhees' head, or is that just supposed to be some random head?
I don't know, because what it looked like in the fridge is not what it looked like on his little shrine.
No.
100%, because I brought that up. It's in my notes at the end going, this looks nothing like the fucking head of the first.
Yeah.
But you saying that just kind of had a light bulb go off. Like, is that even her head?
Yeah, so I have no idea. It doesn't make sense to me, because that's the only beheading that happened in the first movie that I can remember, I guess. And the head is definitely aged, so it's not like it's a fresh head. I don't know. Nothing wrong with fresh head. I just don't know whose it was.
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming.
What?
Come on, man. Come on. So this movie was ahead of its time with an inclusion of a handicapped character here. I thought that's pretty cool. Shout out to Mark. Terry gives us a very cheeky view, so call me sometime there, Terry. I love Jenny as a final girl. You mentioned it, Brian, how she just feels different. She does not feel like – she feels like the evolution of that final girl character, like maybe the first step, because, everyone was kind of copying, Laurie Strode. And later on, we get the better final girls. 3 years later, we get Nancy, and then we get Sydney. Like, final girls that have a little, smarts to them, a little chutzpah, a little something there other than just, and run away. Jenny, you get that here for sure. Obviously she hasn't been declared as the final girl, but it's pretty obvious, what we get. It's not just a stock character. She has layers to her. There's good developments here. I like that we're keeping some of these same beats. I know that's a complaint for some people, but I really enjoy that we're kind of sticking to a formula just because I do think this formula works. It's what I want to see from a Friday the 13th movie that includes the campfire storytelling scene. Like, I really like that. I like the setup it does for the character of Jason. Yeah, we already kind of have an introduction to him, but I do think that this kind of lays some like, is he or isn't he out there stuff? Because again, hallucination, maybe it's all just in their heads, like whatever. Like, I like that we're at least keeping that. And I understand this criticism of this basically being the same movie, but for whatever reason, I like the fact that we're going with this grown-up Jason. Like, and so for me, it's not the same movie. The killer's different, and that may be the only like big thing. But I do think we have just a different cast of characters, more characters I'm willing to invest in, I guess. So also, these white motherfuckers can't dance. They should not be doing that. Stop what you're doing. It's a bad fake out scare with Paul here, and double fuck him for making the moves on Jenny. Call me sometime, Jenny. And last thing, R.I.P. to the legend Ralph. You were a good one, sir. I wish you were in all the movies.
Yeah, I think they regret killing him off too, because if you remember in part 6, you had the crazy old bastard
Exactly.
at the graveyard. It's like,
Exactly.
they needed Ralph.
Absolutely.
But, all right. First of all, I'm not mad at it, but really random shot of Terry walking and getting shot with a slingshot. Like, it was only done to show off her body. It was like Kevin Dunn was producing that shit. Jenny ain't slick. She wasn't late because of her car problems. She was late because she could be. Car trouble my ass. She knew she could get away with anything because she's banging Paul. And proof that she did not have a shitty car, as Nico's called it. Paul popped the hood, didn't touch a damn thing, and it fired right up. So, no, fuck out of here with that. And then asking a girl to dance in a cabin when everyone's just chilling, hanging out, that's insane behavior. The hell was Buddy doing? Like, he pops his collar up against the door and says, hey, you want to dance? But what's even more insane is that when Jenny leaves, there's actually people dancing. That music is barely audible. The only thing I could think of is these people are on mushrooms. They just wanted to move around, because there's no fucking way with that music being that loud and everybody just kind of vibing that, yeah, let's fucking dance. When Jenny is getting ready for bed and we see her see the shadow outside her cabin, it's another man in a fedora. Like, the first thing that came to mind was this predates Nightmare on Elm Street, so it can't be Freddy. So I'm calling it now. Wes Craven got the idea for the look for the fedora from this scene, from Ralph. But Ralph, he leads the league and not minding his own business. If he would have, he'd probably still be alive. All you have to do is just mind your fucking business, Ralph. This is honestly a pretty uneventful set of scenes for me. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, there's nothing. Yeah, Ralph dies, and it's unfortunate, it's tragic. But Ralph wasn't a character of concern. Like, the only thing is he's from the first one, and we liked him because he's a kooky old fuck. But introducing these characters is just kind of slow. I don't know. Mixed bag on this. On it, honestly, it's not terrible, but uneventful.
The shit was funny as hell. Jenny wakes up seeing "Beware of Bears" on her mirror. They're running through the trails until we see a POV shot watching them from the woods. Muffin walks up on Jason, and we're back at camp where Ted is roasting wieners. Terry calls for Muffin but heads back to camp when food is ready. Jenny puts up the chainsaw but looks into the woods suspiciously. Sandra asks Jeff if they're ready to go to Camp Blood. She calls him a chicken shit, and they start the hike. Jenny tells jokes by the lake until Jeff and Sandra walk up on a dead dog carcass. A cop grabs Jeff asking what they're doing out here. Cop tells Paul to keep his kids away from there or he'll arrest them next time. Cop tells Paul he's too close and wants to keep it quiet around here. The couple agrees not to tell Terry what they saw. Cop is driving back until he sees a man with a mask on run across the road. He parks the car and chases after him into the woods. He finds a run-down shack and goes inside. He looks around the place until Jason approaches from behind, killing him by ramming a hammer claw into the back of his skull. Dinner time at camp, and Paul offers them a last night out on the town. A large group takes off into town, and Terry goes on a walk. A shadow walks past the dock towards Terry. Terry strips down and takes a swim in the lake. Mark is still whooping ass arm wrestling until Sandra tells him to come wrestle her. Vicky says she only wants his fingers, and she's flirting hard with him. All right, Brian's next set of scenes I got. What'd you think?
You don't have much on this set of scenes. I am definitely a fan of the fake out kill of the puppy dog Muffin right here, and then quickly cutting to the hot dogs on the grill. Very nice touch there. I laughed. Also, props to the writing. Having Jenny use the chainsaw here to foreshadow the end and, show she knows how to use one. Very good writing. A little fun fact about this officer kill, though. Both this film and Halloween 2 that I mentioned earlier feature killing a law enforcement officer with a hammer to the head. And like we established earlier, both were just months apart. Other than that, though, meh kill. Again, they did the best for what they had to work with here. I mostly wanted it to be like, get to it already, because they both ran like a fucking marathon through the forest before they got to that shack that Jason built, complete with a toilet and everything. Fucking ridiculous, by the way. Oh, and one last fun fact before I hang it up here. In this basically full frontal Terry swimming nude scene, the first notes of the iconic Jaws theme are played, and it's kind of mixed in with the Manfredini score there. I never caught that before. Really cool touch.
I would argue that Jason's shack here, though, is better than Michael Myers living in the sewers for 4 years. Anyway.
Facts.
Throwing that out there. At least this motherfucker's got some plumbing. Anyway. Terry would have been, I hate to start my set of scenes like this, but I can't help myself. Terry would have been better off wearing nothing this whole movie. You can see everything, man. I think we waste a little time here, and that's why I don't have a ton. We waste a little time with Sandra and what's his name wandering off together. Like that, to me, is like a good 6 minutes of the movie for no fucking reason, where they're just kind of wandering off in the woods. It's like Harry Potter, Deathly Hallows Part 1, where they're just in the woods not doing shit. This cop is dumb as fuck. He basically asks for this. He goes running through the woods for really no reason. It just kind of looks like an idiot to me. Like he's trying to kind of prevent what happened last time while kind of bringing it upon himself by doing the dumbest white character thing of all time by going after people. I do like the shot where the feet walk up behind the cop here, but the kill is, it is what it is. Last thing, I only want your fingers is a very dangerous fucking line, man. Like that was, if Dustin were there, a gavel would have been tapped on her ass for saying that shit.
No, she's in the straight. She's in the clear.
Oh, bro, that's kind of a wild line. No, you're not talking about that. It's a little wild. Yeah, not a whole lot on this set of scenes. I think we spend too much time wasting time. I will say it's the only, to Dustin's point, I guess an agreement / counter argument. To me, this is the only set of scenes where I feel like it drags. It just drags just a little bit here in this part. But outside of that, I don't have a problem with some of the other just like teenagers being teenager stuff.
Yeah, if I'm Jenny, I'm a little bit more concerned about waking up and finding that written on my mirror. Like it means that anyone or someone at least can get in my cabin while I'm asleep and I won't even notice.
Wait, wasn't that what's his name that was spent the night with her, was fucking her and like left it before he left it in the morning?
Did he stay the night?
I mean, I assume so. At least some of them.
I assume so too, but they were also hiding it. Like you notice he didn't kiss her in front of everyone. He waited until they were inside that cabin. He's like, "Hey, you were late, asshole. Give me a kiss." There's a reason he didn't kiss her in front of everyone. So I don't know that they were shacking up. I think they were on the low. So I don't know. That's just how I took it, at least. And then when Jason is creeping on the teenagers here, how did Jenny not see him? She looked directly at the camera, which is presumably Jason's face, and didn't see him. Okay. Using a chainsaw to cut firewood one piece at a time is extremely inefficient. Not thrilled with that one bit. Use an axe like a real man, Jenny. But then again, like you said, Brian, I agree. It was a nice piece of foreshadowing that she knows how to use a chainsaw, so it sets it up. I get that, but come on, be more efficient. And after that, Jenny looks directly where Jason is standing again and doesn't see him again. Like he's not that far away, and he has way too clear of a view of her, which means she also has the same view of him. There's only like one leaf in front of him. That just irritated me. And then when Tweedledee and Tweedledumbass are sneaking off alone, they walk right past Jason. What the fuck is wrong with these kids? Like, their vision isn't good enough to be camp counselors. I wouldn't trust my kids at this camp. And then we see the dog. Jason Vick really did a number on it. Don't like that. But it is a nice little fake out because of what happens in the final set of scenes. So that's fine. I did get a good laugh at the cop running through the woods because he stopped for a brief moment to fix his hair and he took off running again. And honestly, that whole part was funny. Like, he looked like a certified dumbass running through the woods. Now, I get what you're saying, Mike. He's running off after someone for really no reason, but he just reprimanded those kids for being over there because it's condemned. It's, trespassing. No one's supposed to be over there. And he sees a man with a fucking potato sack over his head run off in there. Yeah, I'd be a little, if he's a good cop, he's going to investigate it too. So I get it. When we see Jason's shack, honestly, not bad for someone who drowned as a kid. He's not living that bad. And I see Jason as an advocate for the king of the castle law. Trespassers be warned. Hammer in the skull. That was a wicked death. I like that. And then, yeah, I only want your fingers. That's crazy. Hot Wheels was in there. Shout out to my man. This is a really slow set of scenes, though. But I mean, we're getting there. We see more of Jason, more from his perspective, his point of view. But it's just really slow.
You brought up another good point. Like, why did they even show that dead dog in the woods like you brought up Jason Vick? But, like, what's the point? What's the fucking point of it if you're going to bring the back? Like, that just seemed like stupid coincidence. So like,
it's almost like they did that and then thought better of it. And like, oh, shit, you know what? Killing a dog does cross some lines. I don't know if we should do this. Let's let the dog be alive. It's a fake out. Then whose fucking dog was that?
Exactly.
And then another thing, to quote Billy Madison, if old girl's dog's missing like that, you don't look for an hour and call it quits. You got to think that's a pet. You got a responsibility. You get your ass out there and you find that fucking dog.
Absolutely.
These people, man.
Scott takes Terry's clothes and she chases after him, getting her shirt. His ankle gets caught in a noose and he's hung upside down in the air. She leaves to go get a knife, joking for him to not go anywhere. Terry looks for a knife in the cabin as someone cuts Scott's neck with a machete. She finds a knife and runs to Scott, finding him dead. She turns and runs away, but screams when she sees the killer. The group at the bar is vibing, having some drinks. Jenny asks, what if there is a Jason, wondering what he'd be like today. Paul and Ted don't take her seriously, and she's upset they brush her off. Sandra and Jeff head upstairs to make coitus, and Vicky asks how Mark got into a wheelchair. She asks if everything else is okay. Vicky is jonesing for bonesing and leaves to go get some things. She changes clothes and puts some perfume all over her body. She gets her brush from the car as it starts raining. Mark goes outside to the porch thinking Vicky is back. A machete is hacked into his face and he falls down multiple sets of steps in his wheelchair. Jeff and Sandra finish having sex and Jason enters the cabin. He grabs a spear and heads upstairs. He enters their room and Sandra gasps in fear as the two are simultaneously killed with a spear being stabbed through them and the bed. Paul and Jenny leave the bar and head back to the camp. Vicky enters the cabin calling out Mark's name. She heads upstairs into Jeff and Sandra's bedroom. Jason pops up and cuts her leg, and she backs into the wall. He kills her with a stab to the gut area. All right, Brian, this next set of scenes I got. What'd you think?
Yeah, bear with me. A lot happens in this set of scenes. I have a lot here. But another standout, like a really interesting shot to start this off with is when Terry is in the cabin looking for a knife to cut down, Scott from hanging, and pops up and looks directly at the camera. I mean, that's not something you see very often. It stood out to me. Again, very unique shots in this one. But speaking of Scott's kill, good effects. And yeah, it's the first time Jason uses machete, but famously the wrong side of the machete. I mean, that really bothers me. And I know, it bothers a lot of people online. That's a pretty famous kill or blunder or whatever. But as far as the effects go, I mean, I didn't mention it, but okay. Carl Fullerton did the effects when Savini turned it down, which, look, I love Savini. Like, he's a friend of the show, did an intro for us and told us if we ever met him in person, he'd love to talk to us. He's the fucking man. But he turned down the movie, he said, because of the story. You're an effects guy, Tom. Like, I'd love to ask him why he thought that the story mattered. I don't know. Maybe he thought, obviously he did return to the franchise, but I just wanted to say that. What did the story matter to take the job? Maybe he thought it would bomb. I don't know. But Fullerton did great, especially when you see the Blu-ray special features with the 48 seconds of gore batted back to it. It really does suck how much these movies, that we've done now. The MPAA was trying to be dig faces and ruin some really good effects in these movies through the 80s and 90s that we've done. I feel like we've said this a ton of times in these reviews. But, speaking of that, this Jeff and Sandra kill scene had a ton more gruesome blood you can find on the Blu-ray extras as well online. Two crazy facts about this is that Jeff's Bill Randolph said in an interview that filming this scene, he was highly uncomfortable until a sound guy, quote, gave him some of that booger sugar to get through it. Literally cocaine. And that's not even the craziest part. This was supposed to have nudity by Marta Kober, but was cut when they found out she was only 17. Kober, no stranger to nudity, though, would finally get that nude scene on screen in 1991's Inside Out, which was kind of like a short-lived Skinamax series Playboy dabbled in back then. But anyway, speaking of underage stuff, Lauren Marie Taylor admitted to us that she was only 17 as well. So this whole scene with her and spraying her cooch with that perfume, the whole thing feels, I don't know, just super awkward. Like knowing that she was only really 17, but Mrs. Brown Panties is still signing those things and taking pics at cons and, in those today. So, hey, whatever. But come on, somebody got to do better with these casting ages. I mean, geesh. But anyway, her death sucked, in my opinion. Love her in real life, but this was awful. Like, it was the slowest thing ever to get this long-ass shot of him with this perfectly clean hands, by the way, holding a knife and slowly walking towards her, putting up no fight, and then off screen. Get the fuck out of here with that, man. It felt like the Austin Powers steamroller scene where it's just like, no, slow, no. I don't know. That's just what it reminded me of. But speaking of Sandra, something else that I found really cool I never really picked up on is in Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter, the character Rob confesses that he's hunting Jason for murdering his sister, Sandra. Like, I never caught that. He was probably talking about this Sandra. So nice little touch there. And we get Mark's death as well, but I've talked enough. I'll let the guys talk on this one. Just know that I fucking love that death. Go ahead.
First of all, it's never okay to steal someone's clothes while they're swimming. That is just not okay. Never a good thing to do. Those bullies in the Parent Trap did it too. Little fuckers. That shit ain't fucking funny. No one, neither one of these two seem to be particularly concerned with the fact that a booby trap just hung this man up by his foot. They're like, hey man, you can get me down from here. That'd be great. Like, I'd be a little more concerned about that, I think, man. That'd be like, why is there a fucking booby trap laid out here? And then I don't like that we cut away from the kill of Scott. Like, what a creative thing you could do there with an upside down throat slash, essentially. Like, I hate all these ones that got cut, man. It sucks. A lot of people complain about these scenes back at the cabin, making the movie feel a little slow, but I just really get the sense of these being real teenagers doing exactly what real teenagers would do in this this type of setting. And for me, it grounds the movie just a little bit. Even my man, Wheels McGee, Joe Swanson gets in on the action, man. Like, that is how you know it's a good time. I love the backdrop of the rain here, and I'm sorry, but I love the kill of Mark, man. Like, I just right to the fucking face, then he rolls down backwards. It's a great kill, man. And then the spear in the bed, look, I think that's a pretty not so subtle nod to the Kevin Bacon kill in the first one, at least a little bit to me. Like you said, Brian, that kill was hacked to death. It should have been a lot better. I have the Blu-ray with the extra stuff on there, and it is a lot better. But anyway, here we go. Finally get to see my man. Hashtag Team Sack. Get your ass out of here, Vicky. Thanks for coming on the show. But Team Sack has no time for your foolishness. Stab, 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 even though we didn't get to see it. Wish they'd showed that. I think this is a good set of scenes. The movie picks up a little bit here. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, Scott getting strung up from a tree and his slit sliced is what he gets for wearing his shirt tucked in at night at a camp. Well, that and being a creep and stealing Terry's clothes. Jenny calling Jason a frightened retard made me laugh. Sorry, that's just funny. Sometimes I have the sense of humor of a 12-year-old. I'm not sorry. Girl putting on perfume to go to bed. She's trying to get piped tonight. Damn shame what happened to Mark. Even though it was a badass kill, how did he not see that machete coming towards his face, though? Like, it came from the front. He's crippled, not blind. I don't understand that. When Jason goes in the cabin and grabs the spear off the wall, he tosses the mask to the left, but it landed 5 steps above him. Okay. Stabbing through both of them to the floor was awesome, though. Gives a new meaning to the phrase stabbing cabin. We get our sack reveal, pause. Now, it's not the iconic hockey mask, but I didn't hate this look. It's until they figured out where they're going in the or which direction they're taking the character. It's fine. It suffices. So I'm not team sack, but I'm not anti-sack. Pause. I love the theatrics from Jason to hide under the sheets. Glad he's having some fun with it. That was funny. Honestly, this is a much better set of scenes. Stuff's happening now. Like, some action is really picking up.
Paul and Jenny are back at camp, and we see Vicky's body being dragged down the stairs. Jenny checks upstairs and calls for Paul. They find the bloody bed. Paul still thinks nothing is going on, but Jenny is concerned. Jason appears and attacks Paul. Jenny keeps on saying his name, doing nothing until she runs, seeing Jason. She hides in the bathroom until Jason grabs at her through the window. She runs off and finds Crazy Ralph's body in a closet. She escapes ungracefully through a window and tries to leave in her car, but it won't crank. Jason appears outside the window, then stabs the pitchfork through the convertible top. She kicks the door open, knocking him down a hill. He chases after her through the woods until she hides and kicks him in the gonads. She hides briefly, but Jason jumps from the woods, almost tackling her, but he misses. Jenny hides under a bed in the cabin, and a rat crawls by Jenny and pees on the floor. Jason sees this, and Fate leaves the cabin. Jenny emerges from under the bed, and the chair Jason was standing on breaks, and he falls, breaking his pitchfork. She grabs a chainsaw and cuts his arm as he cowers backwards. He's not really an athlete. Mama was too big. She hits him with a chair and flees the cabin. And the next set of scenes are ending. Go ahead, Brian.
I go from having the most notes to almost none on this set. And I guess I hated Vicky's death so much that I didn't even touch on the fact that it was the first time we got the full sack head Jason and a full shot of the sack, as it were. Pause yourselves. Pause yourselves. Pause yourselves.
Crazy.
But according to co-producer Dennis Stewart Murphy, the idea to actually have Jason wear that burlap sack over his head in part 2 came from their costume designer, who figured it was the type of readily available item Jason could have conceivably and easily procured. It's fine. 09 reboot did it better, but I don't hate it anymore. I don't know. I'm not big on the overalls though. This fight scene with Steve Dash and Paul, I really liked it though. It felt real. Just like Jenny's reaction when she said, "There's someone in the fucking room." I don't know. I loved that. And so, speaking of Steve Dash, we didn't bring this up here, but Warrington Gillette's credited with this role. Steve Dash is really who played him. I mean, I think we talked about this on our Jason actor rankings. Don't go out there.com. But Gillette literally played him one time at the end of this movie. And Dash was hurt so many times making this movie that it is really strange that Gillette gets the credit nowadays for this, to be honest. But one last thing I'll say before I'm going. Jason falling off that chair was fucking dumb. Like, what is this? A stool for ants? Zoolander. Go ahead.
Nico's seen that.
Yeah, yes. Oh, God, Jesus Christ.
God damn it.
Look, I just can't help myself. This sackhead Jason keeps cracking me the fuck up when he makes kills. Like, I know that the hockey mask look is way better, more intimidating, but something about this particular look makes it a little bit just more entertaining, if that makes sense. Like, for whatever reason, no, it's not scarier, but I don't mind the look. I like the one eye open, and quite frankly, I just think it's funnier and more entertaining. Like this chase scene, I mean, Jenny's showing that she's scared, but also pretty resilient. You know, she's at least has some character. Come on, you cannot tell me that sack coming up over the window isn't scarier than a fucking hockey mask. You can't tell me that. You can't tell me that the sack isn't scarier. A pitchfork.
Maybe the sack from Scary Movie, when the sack came from in Scary Movie 2, when it came from under the bed. Now that was scarier. But this sack with a hockey mask, no.
Fair. I feel like more killers should use a pitchfork, though. I will say that I like the pitchfork as a weapon. And I know, everyone kind of has their opinions on his look here, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like the pitchfork as a weapon. I love how they use silence as Jason starts to make his way around the room, slowly putting in the score and the Kiki Mama. That's what it says. You can't tell me any different. Really like that. And again, we're getting a mix of 80s cheese, but there really actually is some decent filmmaking here in part 2, at least. Could you imagine hiding under a bed from a fucking killer, and now you got to deal with a fucking mouse of all things? Fuck that. I fucking hate mice and rats, man. Fuck that shit. That would be just the worst day ever sandwich right there. Admittedly, this is the clumsiest version of Jason that we get. He's a bumbling idiot, so I get why people kind of critique that, but I don't know. It entertained me. She hit him over the back with that chair like she was Steve Austin in 1998, taking out the corporation, so I appreciated her accuracy there. Again, good set of scenes. I'm glad the movie's kind of narrowed it down to our final characters, though, because I like this ending that we're about to go into.
So, in this set of scenes, he says, "Jenny, come on." And then she says, "Wait for me." Bitch, he said that 2 seconds ago. He's not gone yet. Just turn around. That irritated me for some reason. Like, the way she said, "Wait for me," was like he ran off in a hurry. Like he's still inside a cabin. Anyway, Jason's out here whooping ass in overalls. I love it. Man knows there's no substitute in fashion for functionality. Big fan of that. If you recall, one of the first episodes that I was on this podcast was The Crazies, and I advocated for some more pitchfork kills. And by God, we almost got one here. Jenny about took one to the melon through the door. That was awesome. Love that. In hindsight, if I could rewrite the Jason movies, I would have a pitchfork be his main weapon of choice. I don't get Jenny running away from the car, though. Like, I get it. It wouldn't start, and he almost got you. But history has shown that car will start with a couple more tries. And when she kicked the door open, he fell down the hill. I think she bought herself plenty of time to get it cranked. Just my opinion. But she takes off through the woods, and I'm glad she did because she kicked him right in the balls, and I love a good crotch shot. Pause. Best part of America's Funniest Home Videos by far to me is when they get hit in the nuts. So big fan of that. This has got to be the bravest rat ever. Like most mice, which if we're being real, this should have been a mouse, not a rat. Like I don't think rats like that are in the woods like this. I think it should have been like a field mice or something, but a field mouse. But anyway, most mice would flee at the sight of a human being that close. But then I get it. I hate rats and mice too. So to literally piss down your leg here is wild, but I understand. Now, also, I saw when I was doing some research, there's some confusion. Like some people think that was the rat that pissed. It's a lot of piss to be in that rat. I don't know, but turns out it was Coca-Cola. Jason getting scared and tripping over the table when she has the chainsaw. That's the real Ghostface level shit. Like that is 100% something Ghostface would do. Jason ain't scared of shit except for water. This is a much better set of scenes. Like it salvaged the movie for me. Really enjoyed it, and I'm ready for the finale.
All right, here's the ending. She keeps running through the woods, making it to the shack in the woods. She sees Jason running towards her and barricades the door. She sees Mama Voorhees' head shrine. She puts a sweater on and pulls her hair back to look like her. She tells Jason it's all done. Mommy's pleased. He drops a pitchfork and sees her face. He approaches his mother and hears her voice more. He gets closer and kneels. He sees her dead head and snaps back and blocks Jenny's machete swipe. Paul appears and wrestles with Jason. Jenny grabs the machete and hacks into his neck shoulder area, and he collapses over. Jenny pulls a sack off his head and are horrified by what they see. They leave the shack and she takes the sweater off. Paul carries her and they make it back to the cabin. He puts her down on a bed and they hug until they hear a creak at the door. Muffin is still alive and they breathe a sigh of relief. Suddenly, Jason jumps through the window, unmasked, and grabs Jenny. We cut to light and Jenny is being carried off in an ambulance asking, "Where's Paul?" Cut back to the shack and a close-up of Miss Voorhees' head shrine, and the film ends. All right, Brian, what did you think about the ending?
Yeah, mixed bag for me. I mean, first of all, on a good note, there was a fantastic shot. I mean, it actually almost reminded me of a shot from The Strangers of Jason through that window while Jenny is in Jason's love shack there. And this is actually in my notes, Dustin, where I had, my notes actually say, can we talk about this Pamela head not looking anything like the one from the fucking beginning of the movie for a second? But, who knows now, I guess. There's a little fun fact that it's supposedly noticeably an actress wearing makeup rather than a fake head. To me, not really so noticeable. Didn't realize it was an actress wearing makeup instead of a fake head. But that was all because this final shot is a close-up of the head ending in a freeze frame before the credits roll. Originally, this shot ended with Mrs. Voorhees opening her eyes and smiling. What the fuck? Like, thank God Steve Miner decided that was hokey too and changed it. But you know what else cheapens the movie? Hold on, I'll get there. But I have always liked the sweater thing. Like the Betsy Palmer cameo as well is pretty cool. It's pretty interesting how they somehow convinced her to come back despite her feelings on the franchise. I mean, they went to her house and shit to make it the easiest cameo ever. But I like it. I like it for continuity. I'm not a huge Betsy Palmer fan, but I am more impressed with the effects that they used to actually pull off this whole like fading in and out face here. That like the stuff they did in the late 70s and early 80s, like with effects like that, really it impresses me now. But what I was talking about with the cheaping in the movie, it's this bullshit scene with busting through the window. And like I was talking about earlier, that's actually Gillette. But I'm just not a fan of it at all. Like the movie should have been over. This was going too far, with mocking the first one or mimicking the first one. And Steve Miner said, so you can't like just say, oh, well, maybe that was a dream too, if we're fucking dreaming on everything. But the ending where Jason attacks Jenny through the window is not a dream, according to Steve Miner. So you know what? Fuck that. Also, last thing, shout out Crazy Ralph in the fucking pantry again. This Joker stays in the motherfucking pantry. Shout out Crazy Ralph.
Yeah. I mean, Jenny gets away, and the first thing that she does is run into this fucking shack. It's just a fucking terrible idea. I do like the scene where it's going back and forth with Jenny's facial expression, him kind of like chipping away at getting into the shack. Like I like that scene. I think it's, again, some pretty good filmmaking here for what the budget was. Pretty suspenseful. And I love this ending as far as this part where she tricks him into thinking that that it tricks him into thinking she's Pam. Like I really liked that at the time. Pretty original. And again, it has a final girl be not just lucky to get away, but smart, outsmarted the killer. And I think that works here. It gives the final girl character some layers, some depth. And I really like the sweater and everything they do here. Like, I think it's a really creative ending. I agree with Brian. I wish it had stopped right here. Like, Paul comes in, distract Jason, we kill Jason, it's done. I'm even okay with, kind of tipping your cap to the first one with the slow-mo kill again, alluding to the way that Pam Voorhees was killed. Like, I'm okay with that. Like, it is a sequel to the first one after all. So, that's totally fine. But how we get after that, how we get to the very end, I'm just not a fan of. Now, I will say, Jason through the window is an okay shot. I wish they had just done that before he got killed. Make that happen again. I know they were trying to do another fake out kill and all that stuff. I mean, we even get a fake dog jump scare here with it. So you think everything's okay. It kind of lulls you into, sense of relief, and then bam, it hits you with it. But I just don't think it's worth it. That shot with the ugly, Jason Voorhees without his mask, or sack, whatever, pause. I'm not a big fan of. And again, the shot I am, but where it's placed, I'm not. And so I think we could have just ended it as soon as Jason, quote unquote, was killed. I think that would have been the right way to do it. So again, mixed bag, but for the most part, I'm a really big fan of how they pulled this ending off, except for that one shot.
Yeah, so if Jason's mom's head is here, whose head did he put in the fridge at Alice? That stuck in my head all movie long. It's very weird to me to have Jenny put the sweater on and act like Jason's mom, and even weirder to have that work. I didn't like that at all. It didn't work for me. Because how did she, people have different ways of phrasing things. People speak differently. So the fact that she acted like Jason's mom, and he's like, oh yeah, that's mom, just how I remember. Nah, I don't like that. Also, doesn't Jason know it's a fire hazard to have all these candles lit and then leave home? He doesn't have insurance. That's just a dumb move on his part. We go slow motion for the finish for dramatic effect. Why? So unnecessary. Could have done without that. I like that she took the sack off pause, but they don't show his face here. It makes it more impactful at the end when we do see it, so I thought that was well done. And then, wait just a minute. If that's the dog from earlier, whose damn dog was dead? And why even show us a dead dog? I had that in. Just made no sense. I love the final jump scare, though. I do, because when Jason busts through the window, it was perfectly executed. They made it tense, but then lulled us into a false sense of security when they opened the door and it's the dog, but then bam. So while I agree, I think they should have just left it as, Jason is presumably dead and they live happy. They both live happily ever after, or don't. I don't know. Mixed bag as well for me.
All right, guys, jump into our social media comments and questions. We'll do Twitter first. This guy's username is just that guy. So, yeah. Hell yes. Amy Still is one of my favorite final girls. Was recently gifted a DVD box set, and I love the recently found deleted extended scenes. Also, is Ted the single luckiest character of this franchise by staying at the bar? Love the show, brothers. Hell yeah, he was the luckiest guy ever. Ted had the best role in this movie. He got decent screen time, and he lived.
Yep.
What more can you ask for? All right, Mookie commented. He stole Mike's line. Terry, call me sometime. Can't say that I didn't see that one coming. All right, let's jump over to Instagram. Dale_Milburn commented. New fan of the show, all the way from the Europe somewhere. Shout out to him. For me personally, I always skip the first two movies when doing a marathon because Friday the 13th for me is always Jason and Hockey Mask. Also, I find Jenny annoying, and that scene at the end where she pretends to be Pamela just completely puts me out of it. Okay, see, Dustin, you're not alone in that. Movie_Miss commented, best final girl in the franchise. Besides Steven, and Jason goes to hell with a laughing emoji. That's pretty funny. Movie Bros podcast commented, does it ever bother you guys that in certain slashers, if it was to show you the killer POV like it does in this movie, and you see the killer's hand is clean like they wash their hands? Like, these are murderers. I doubt they're going to be worried about their hands being clean. Or maybe I'm just tripping. Y'all tell me. No,
that's what I said.
I'm with you.
That's crazy.
Here's a fun fact about me. I absolutely hate for my hands to be dirty. Like, if I'm outside, chopping wood like I like to do, I'm constantly washing my hands. If I'm changing my oil, like I go through a roll of paper towels when I change oil, because I can't stand for my hands to be dirty. So, I get it.
You got soft hands, brother.
I didn't say they're soft, they just clean.
All right, Laughing Man 45 commented, such a classic. Great sequel to the original. I was lucky enough to meet Steve Dash, Jason, before he passed away. Super nice guy. That's a cool story, man. I wish I could have met him, but, things happen. All right, last but not least, we'll jump over to Facebook. Giuseppe Clayton commented, the burlap sack mask is my favorite. What was your favorite weapon in this one? I personally love the pitchfork, especially when the counselor rushed Jason from behind and the takedown breaks the pitchfork handle. Good effects and detail. Had to be a hell of a hit. Yeah, I'll go with pitchfork as well. Why not?
I'm
going
stance.
with the spear. I'm an Indian from way back. Spear.
Planted that spear in those kids like he was Osceola on the 50-yard line. I tell you that much.
All right, Raymond Rodriguez commented, one of my favorite sequels, and I love Amy Steele. She's a scream queen that I was always looking for more movies from. Okay. David Cohen commented, I love how this really starts it all with Jason coming back for vengeance after seeing Alice decapitate his mom. I love the opening scene where he takes his revenge, and I had nightmares after seeing Mark get killed and go down all those stairs in the wheelchair. An overall great entry in the series. Christina Tower commented, I love this movie. I think this Friday, part 3 in the reboot are my favorite in the franchise. This one had one of the smartest decisions by a final girl in this movie, but also a little gross. LOL. Michelle Mirza commented, hell yeah, Jason's my favorite. Team Sackhead. I do not get that. All right.
See, I'm not alone, baby. Let's go.
And then Matt Sears finished this off saying, take a shot every time Mike says sack.
We would be dead.
We would be dead right
brother, now. Hey, there's nothing better than enjoying don't go out there while you're tipsy. So here you go. You thought I was going to say something about sack. Well, I didn't.
Well, you just did. So,
fuck yourself, Dustin.
I'll take this chance to say something I said. I think it was when we were doing the ranking episode, or maybe I said it when we did the original. Maybe I don't know. I said it one other time on the show. People that have an issue with the sack look is only because you've seen the hockey mask. So the same thing applies to what I said about the original. People don't like the original because there's no Jason. But if you watch them for the first time in the order they came out and you've never seen any of them, I think you can forgive it more. So you can forgive the sackhead look more if you never knew about the hockey mask. The problem is we do.
I would say the sackhead just reminds me of just like a regular killer. Like, I don't know, Jason's other looks with just the hockey mask, it has a presence to it. And the sackhead just doesn't have a presence.
So it's like, where the hell would he have gotten a hockey mask? And so from a logical standpoint, it makes sense because I'm questioning how the hell his clothes are so clean and where he got these clothes in the first place. He doesn't have a washer and dryer. So, just when you're thinking about things from a logical standpoint, it makes sense that he's wearing a sack over his head.
But I mean, he finds the mask in 3. I mean, just let him find it in 2.
But up until 2, we don't know that he's ever been outside that camp since he died. So, he's only feasting, he's only preying on these few kids that come into camp. And what are the odds that someone's like, the fact that he found a mask at all is amazing. Who the fuck brings a hockey mask?
Well, I mean, they were talking about that video game with the hockey and all that, but I'm with you. Brian, Dustin, fun facts. Y'all got any more? If you want to share them, go ahead.
Yeah, I got a couple. So I kind of touched on this a little bit, but here's the rest of the other side of it. So with Tom Savini unavailable, they actually asked Stan Winston to deliver the gore for this one. Unfortunately, Winston was forced to leave due to scheduling conflicts, making way for Carl Fullerton, who did a great job. But within 5 years, Winston won an Oscar for his work on Aliens, and his Stan Winston Studios would go on to be responsible for the work on Terminator, Aliens, Jurassic Park, Predator series. Yeah, after a decade in gore, Fullerton ascended to the A-list of Hollywood makeup artists with Glory, Godfather Part 3, Silence of the Lambs, Philadelphia. So I would say either way, we did pretty good there. Originally, it had been intended for Amy Steele's character Jenny to die, but producers decided, someone needed to survive. I don't know why. I think that would have been pretty cool if nobody survived. But hey, there you go. They loved Steele's performance and wanted to sign her up for part 3. Her agent told her not to, stating she'd get better roles, and she chose to listen. Years later, she shared that she regretted that decision. While she did get a few other roles here and there, she largely left acting and instead became a marriage and family therapist. And the last thing is Amy Steele would star in another slasher after this, April Fool's Day, which I have personally seen and I think is terrible and need to be remade, but that's my opinion. Decent premise, but bad exexecution.
The idea is good.
It'd probably make a good discussion episode.
Fuck off.
I agree with Brian on the April Fool's Day comment, though. Like, I think the bones are good. I just think a remake through a modern lens with better acting would make that movie better. Because I like the idea of the April Fool's Day. Anyway, I don't obviously have any fun facts, but I do have. We're talking about them greenbacks, baby. That money. Let's go. Oh, Dustin, you got to go. Sorry,
I think
I'll skip you like you always skip me, pal.
I ain't skipped you in several episodes.
Bitch, it was 2 episodes ago. Get your fun facts.
Why are you bringing up old shit? All right, Brian, if you said any of these earlier, my fault. You can cut them out or leave them in. They can hear it twice because they're pretty good. So the nephew of Stuart Charna, who plays Ted in the movie, he's the guitarist for Ice Nine Kills, who's a very popular band among horror fans. In the scene where Jason crashes into the window and grabs Jenny, the actor Warrington Gillette was actually hurt. He tried to break into the window, only it didn't break, and he ended up banging his head really hard on the glass. That's funny to me. They should have left that shit in. The first Jason scene in the movie is a shot of Jason's legs walking across the street towards Alice's house. This is the only time in the series that Jason was played by a woman, Ellen Lutter, the film's costume designer.
Budget.
Oh, can I go now? Sorry. I just wanted to make sure it was my
don't even
turn.
try to pull that shit.
Just wanted to make sure it was my fucking turn. So, on a budget of what?
We fucking go. What do you mean,
Yeah.
what? Go.
Yes, suck it from the back, Brian. This movie had a budget of $1.25 million and made $21.7 million, even though it was critically panned, not well received by the audience. Got a ton of fucking sequels after that. So, and it made a lot of money, as you would expect.
Hell yeah. Gotta love that money. We know you got plenty of it, Mike. All right, let's jump into our favorite part of the show.
Hey,
favorite
Nico,
kill,
go
least
fuck
favorite
yourself.
kill. Damn. All right. Favorite kill, least favorite kill in the rating. I'll kick us off. Favorite kill. It's pretty easy to go with Mark, but the one that I always remember from my childhood is the cop getting hit in the back of the head with a fucking hammer. That shit's hilarious. That's my favorite kill. Not because it's the best one, it's just the funniest. And I remember that one the most from this one. Least favorite kill, I got to go with Terry. I'm pretty sure that's probably the most common one that's going to get chose. Off screen. I mean, she was highlighted throughout the movie, just off of her looks and all that. She deserved to get killed on screen if you're going to kill her. I'm going to keep my rating short and sweet. This isn't my favorite Friday the 13th movie. Not a big fan of the Jason portrayal. It's still my least favorite. Not waffling on that decision. Warrington Gillette seems like a really nice guy. R.I.P. to Steve Dash, but come on, I need Jason in a hockey mask. I need him not cowering in fear from a chainsaw. But it nails the 80s atmosphere, the cheese, the mood, the campy feel. I think they nailed it. I think Amy Steele was fine as Jenny, but I don't think she's anywhere near the best final girl in this franchise, to me personally. But she's going against the weakest Jason, and she puts the sweater on. All right, that's cool. It doesn't work for me, though. It's not my favorite. But I gave Steve Miner's other movie we reviewed on this show, Halloween H2O, a 6.25. I'm going to give this one a 6.25. So he gets a 6.25 for both movies.
How nice of you.
I'm just that kind of guy. Consistency.
I'll tell you what. My favorite kill, probably Spear Through the Bed, even though it was cut up. I liked it. Least favorite kill, Vicky. Fucking, God, that drove me crazy. I hated it. So I agree with somebody who wrote in and said the same thing. I actually used to skip this sequel when I'd watch marathons growing up. I'd start at 3 as well, simply because of the lack of hockey mask. But as an adult and revisiting this one and the first one especially, I really never gave them the credit that they both deserved, honestly. I'd also like to use this time to create a motion that we do another Friday ranking show. Dustin's first show, like we mentioned. I would like to
I'm in. Let's
motion
do it.
that we do that again. And I gave the first one a 7 when we did it. I'm going to give this one an 8.5, believe it or not. And if you want some more behind the scenes, go listen to our interview of Lauren Marie Taylor, who gives her insight as actually being there on don'tgooutthere.com.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, so my favorite kill is Mark. I think it's a great kill. Awesome shot. The rain, the wheelchair rolling backwards, I think is a great kill. My least favorite kill is Scott. Felt like it could have been more gruesome. I feel like the idea is there, that the creativity, and they just didn't execute. Yeah, look, as someone who got into this franchise late, I don't have a ton of that nostalgic attachment to it. So my attachment to the hockey man, while I like that character of Jason, I do, and I like some of those movies, this doesn't offend me on some personal level like it does other people to have this different look of Jason Voorhees. It really doesn't. It's still a movie with Jason killing counselors, and I think it's done really well. I think it's entertaining. I like the characters better than the first one and some of the later sequels. I like the story we're telling here, even though it's almost a carbon copy of the first one with a little bit of a different, twist to it. So again, I like it. It's entertaining. The more I watch it, the more I like it. It's funny in some parts. It's suspenseful in some parts. I just really think they do a good job of capturing what an 80s slasher really looks like and what it is. I think that this is one of the better ones. So I thought I was going to have the highest score on here, but I'm actually tied because I gave this movie an 8.5.
All right. My favorite kill was also Mark. He ate that machete to the face and then rolled down the stairs in a hilarious manner. Big fan of that. Although Nico, hammer to the back of the head was honorable mention for me. That was a great one. Least favorite kill, I'm with you, Nico. Surprised it wasn't unanimous. It was Terry. It was off screen, and also she was just way too hot to die. I wish she would have lived. As far as my final thoughts and rating, while I like that it introduced Jason and the kills in this movie are phenomenal, it's just really slow at points. And for a movie that's only an hour and a half long, it has a ton of filler. But the kills make up for it. So I give it a 7.25. That gives us a composite score of 7.625. IMDb's at a 6.1. Now, also, I do want to mention, way back when, episode 10, my first episode with you guys, we ranked the franchise. Nico had it 10th out of 12th on that one. Brian had it 8th out of 12th. And Mike and I both had it 5th out of 12th. Now, in episode 83, when we ranked the franchise along with Nightmare on Elm Street franchise and Halloween franchise, Nico had it 23rd out of 31. Brian had it 21 out of 31. Mike had it 15 out of 31. And I had it 12 out of 31. So things definitely change.
Absolutely.
I would still probably have it towards there in my rankings, but I'll have a better opinion of it, if that makes sense. I mean, I like the later Fridays. I enjoy them. Anywho, let's jump into our blood donors. Then I'll announce our pick for next week. Next week is an important movie to this show. It's a big movie to the entire horror community. But let's shout out these blood donors real quick. We got a new final girl donor, Christina Tao. Really appreciate you. We'll be knocking out that review as soon as October is over. Camper level reoccurring, Clayton J, Nina, Michelle Mirza, Andrew Ferguson, the Horror Movie Crew podcast, Alex Seligson, Eric Doolittle, Sean Irwin, Kelsey Miller, and my boy CJ, Christopher James. Our camp counselor reoccurring, Edwin Hernandez Gunn, Joe Swinford, Kylie Denise, all the way from Australia, Adrian Aiello, Karen, and Brian Samick. A new camp counselor donor. He upgraded from camper level to a camp counselor. So shout out to Brian. We really appreciate you. Next week, we're taking on a really, really big movie in the horror genre. One of the biggest, honestly. Top 10, top 5, maybe just based on impact. Taking on 1996's Scream, the third movie overall, the third episode overall from Don't Go Out There. I'm really excited to revisit this. I know opinions will have changed on this one.
Yeah, I just want to say I haven't given a 10 on this show in a long time, and we're about to go back-to-back weeks with a 10, a fucking 10. I can't wait. Back-to-back weeks.
You didn't give this movie a 10.
No, after that, buddy.
I'm just fucking with you.
I'm excited about that one too, since I wasn't on the show when you guys reviewed that one.
Yeah,
and so I'm excited to talk about it. I've said it. I'm with Brian and Mike, and I'm with Nico. My two favorite franchises, Scream and Saw, and so really excited to do that.
Saw.
What?
What are you talking about Saw for?
I said I'm with you. Your favorite franchise is Saw.
Fuck. See, I had Mike talking about back-to-back movies, and he was talking about Scream and Halloween, and I was like, the fuck you talking about Scream and Saw for?
No, I just
we're doing Saw instead.
All right, let's get the fuck out of here before I fuck anything else up. Really appreciate all the listeners. Shout out to y'all. Happy Friday the 13th. Appreciate y'all tuning in. I'm really excited to review Scream again next week. I might even throw a little razzle-dazzle in the ratings. Who knows? Y'all have a good one.
Boy. I only want your fingers.
Hey.
Just want to remind everybody.